shortly.
Okay. I would like to welcome you today on our meeting. We'll be talking about loneliness versus solitude in today's times. And our guest today is Father Christlin Rajendram from Sri Lanka, an assessor, NVC trainer, Jesuit, and a wonderful person. And the mic is yours.
Okay. So before we ask questions to Father Chris, let me just remind that this question of loneliness and solitude has been explored by many people. And one of them I especially like is John O'Donoghue, who is an Irish writer and theologian. And I'm not going to read the whole quote, but I would just like to quote the first sentence where he says that solitude is one of the most precious things in the human spirit, and that it's different from loneliness. And I hope that we can hear more about these differences from Father Chris. And I will now give the voice to Matti, who will ask some intriguing questions.
Thank you, Kasia, and thank you, Magdalena. I would like to share that I feel really excited to be here in this community and very curious what we will discuss. And yeah, for me, this topic is very dear, and I think one of the central topics. And I'm very happy that we can discuss this today with Father Chris. So my first question to you, Father Chris, would be, what does it mean to be in solitude, or to feel lonely in this world for you? How would you describe it?
Yes. So thank you for organizing this wonderful meeting together. It's really wonderful. It's not, I'm not an expert in any of these fields, and that's why I call it a conversation. And in some way, unfortunately or fortunately, it has been explored very widely. And mainly, I think, because the Surgeon General of the USA has taken it upon himself, and he wrote a book, and then he had a whole lot of things. He explored this topic because he wanted to announce it is something very important for the country to take action, because it affects us in so many ways. And he being the Surgeon General for America, and he was with facts. I don't remember now, but he said it affects you in health-wise very, very much. And so he explored this with different people, different areas, and so it's well explored. But that's why I call this a conversation, because whatever you might have heard about this, it's always wonderful to speak our heart, speak our mind, because that is a conversation. So that every one of us, with whatever experience we have of this phenomenon, really could bring in some understanding, and some deeper understanding, and some new way of approaching it. So it's a wonderful topic, really, though it has been explored immensely, but there is still, the phenomenon still remains quite common, very, very common in many countries in the West, and I'm sure in all over the world. in some way or the other. So I think Magda mentioned that the Irish theologian who points out that these two are different. Of course, solitude is something totally different from loneliness. Loneliness, they say, is sort of an incubation period for mental illness. And so unless we really take and pay attention to it and take care of it, it can really become depression, and then it become a mental illness, which will be much more difficult to treat.
Oh, Father Chris is losing his voice.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Am I loud enough?
Yes, I can hear you well.
If you can speak a little louder, would be
Louder. Okay, that's good. Thank you. So Marty, your question is what is the significance of this topic, is it?
Yes, and I'm wondering if this is more external condition or more internal, as Kasha already mentioned that she has been surrounded by people but felt a bit lonely.
Yes, it is. It, of course, internal, but of course it manifests externally. And I think, as someone mentioned, that it is basically a very serious problem, because unless paid attention to, it can become mental illness, which really could be very devastating, because dealing with mental illness is more difficult than anything physical.
What would be your alternative or antidote to loneliness, or not going in the direction of illness?
Yeah. So loneliness is something that is common to everyone. Somehow or the other, at some time or the other, we have all experienced this phenomenon in our lives, because we have felt lonely. This is loneliness is nothing nothing very outrageous or out of the way. Then it is actually a natural thing for all of us. Loneliness in some ways is what I will call the separation that we all of us have. That so separation is always there in our lives. And when we feel acutely this separation, then it becomes loneliness, and then becomes mental illness. So it is, so the way is always to pay attention to it, to be aware of it. And so this is a great suffering for anyone who has experienced it. But the good news is also that there is, if you read the stories of people who are enlightened, they always talk about a period of intense suffering, intense suffering of this separation, actually. And then suddenly they wake up to this oneness that all of us, the whole human being, mankind, I mean, everyone, is longing for, is this oneness, to be able to find this, to this longing that is in the hearts of all, every one of us, is to find this oneness, oneness in maybe not in an extraordinary way as in the enlightened beings, but just in some grade or the other, some way or the other, some degree of oneness within our families, with our friends, and with the people that we live with, and people that we work with, that we find this oneness that is that could be just. So this is a longing that all of us have. That is to be able to, from this suffering of separateness, that we come to understand and really realize this oneness in our lives to some degree or the other. And the path to enlightenment is also the same, very often the same intense suffering that people go through in loneliness. And loneliness, you can always pass from loneliness to solitude, and solitude to really the oneness in life. So
Are you saying, Father, not to be afraid of feeling lonely?
That I cannot tell anyone not to be afraid or to be afraid, because you are what you are, and what you feel is what you feel, that you need to be present to it. You know, everything, even loneliness, if people can come to be present to the loneliness, they automatically move on to the next step of a certain amount of oneness and understanding and solitude. That is, the next step is always a solitude, which is a precious moment where you are alone with yourself, which is possible only when you have the courage. It needs lots more courage to be in solitude, to be alone with oneself. You know, then so it's loneliness. I mean, there is, of course, if you're afraid, because that's all part of the suffering of the separation. But then once you become present to it, then of course you slowly move from there to really solitude and to oneness, which is a wonderful thing that all of us long for.
And when you mentioned to be one with yourself, can you please expand on this? Because I think that in modern societies, we are not so much encouraged to be connected with what is alive in us. We have already forces that are telling us what to do, how to feel, how to think.
Yeah, so, and of course it's easy to blame everything onto the technology, because the technology that we ourselves have invented to really come together, to really connect with each other. And those technologies are, now we find that they're not working the way that we would like them to work. And those technologies have really separated us much more. And we slowly, easily fall into this loneliness, and that we find difficult. Because, I mean, you can see that in how technology has invaded of our daily lives, that we have very little time energy, or even the, I mean, the whole culture has changed so much that we prefer to watch something on our cell phone rather than that face another human being and to be able to talk to. So these are the changes in our cultures. And I think this is much more serious problem, I think, when it comes to the young people, because they they are so engrossed and they are so taken up into this technology, and they are so much unaware of where they are, and their loneliness also at certain points becomes unbearable. And so I mean, I know technology has a big part to play in this thing, but then at the same time, it is also we cannot stop technology in its growth. It will go on its own way. And just like how we have the wars that we are fighting these days in our world, and because the early time the wars were, at least people faced each other, and killed each other. But now we don't know whom we are killing and how we are killing and how many are dying. We don't know. So it's become so faceless and so very cruel, leaving the people who are suffering all alone. And I mean, this is a phenomenon that we see presently. We are witnessing so much. We see it on television, and we are unable to do anything about it. The nations that we call the United Nations are really not anymore united, and it's not. And it'll be a very interesting thing also to look into how did we come here? What happened to us? How did our technology or our culture bring us here? And so these are some questions that we could really look into, why did we come here? How did we come to this place?
I feel like asking you, Father, about this feeling of unity, or feeling that we are connected somehow, versus the separation. How can we cultivate this quality of connection with others and with ourselves?
Yes. But I think how do we of course we are always trying to do that, because we cannot really stand, because if we don't do that, then of course we slowly fall into the suffering of loneliness. Then we become acutely aware of our separation, and it becomes intolerable and very lonely. So how do we deal with this? And this is something, of course, I don't never like to answer this question on how, because because this is a question that is that every one of us have to answer for ourselves. because because it is something that answers a very much part of living, part of being, experiencing even suffering, and is part of that. Unless you really be present to the suffering, that you cannot come to the way to overcome it or be able to get out of it. So loneliness is something, and I know the best way, as I said, solitude is, or what we call being able to be alone with oneself. And that is, I think, what really, which needs lots of courage. Because
yeah. I just wanted to I wanted to rephrase my question a little bit, so to get rid of this nasty how. If maybe you can talk about the practices that you enjoy, that the practices that help you to foster solitude but not fall into loneliness.
Well, for me, I think what really was most helpful in my life, of course, is what I call meditation, which fortunately for me, I fell into this because of my path. That, from the age of 17, when I joined the Jesuits, they have a rule of 1 hour of meditation every day. So that sort of puts me into this practice of spending time alone, and I think that is I still continue this practice in much more joyfully, and really with so much understanding of what it really brings to my life. But this is, I think, could be a big help for everyone. But I'm sure each one of us will face our questions alone, and we will, each one may have a different way of answering, way of approaching it.
And you mentioned this oneness with the whole humanity, or the whole life, universe, nature. I'm wondering how do you see this in practice, or how does it manifest in practice?
Yeah, this oneness I was talking about is it's a longing that all of us have. It's sort of a fundamental longing for every human being to be connected with one another. That is, and so in fact, all our lives are organized in such a way that we can live together and we can stay connected with one another. But somehow it is not given our culture that, and the technology that has its own path and own development and progress, that we are unable to keep up with. And so this longing for oneness is in the heart of every one of us. Connection is heart of our very being, that all of us want to be connected. And that is why I think also loneliness becomes the most painful feeling that all of us may experience, because so much greater the awareness and yearning and desire for oneness, and that you don't find it, that you... So the oneness that I'm talking about is, of course, that is in the religious sphere, they may call it the oneness with God. I think St. Augustine talks about it. He says, we are restless until we find total rest in you, in the sense of that one, till we become one with you. So this is what all of us are longing for, though we do not express it in so very often, but sometimes it's since this is a deep desire and longing for in all human beings, but does not mean that our lives just flows smoothly just because we have the desire or the longing. But then the lives that we live and the circumstances and the life that we encounter does not always help us to live that oneness. So we have conflicts, of course, which are we consider is, but if we don't know how to deal with our conflicts, then they become wars, and then they become total annihilation of one another. So in the same way, also loneliness in some ways is just like conflict. Is something that, something that you encounter in this path of longing or wanting to be one. So it could be a very painful experience, but it could also become awakening experience, as it has proved in many people in their lives, that they became so very intensely aware of their separation, and they become so very intensely painful for them and suffering, and then suddenly they snap out of it and find and fall into the oneness. And that is how I think many of these enlightened people that we read about or see them on television, like Eckhart Tolle and all these people, they talk about their experience as being this same suffering. So loneliness is one way, it's a suffering that is nothing strange to humanity. But if we could be present to that suffering in all its intensity, then it could also become an awakening to oneness, to a new life.
I would like to come back to technology in the presence of what you just shared, Father Chris, because I feel that technology is almost like we were given, like by technology, we were given a tool to escape the unpleasantness of feeling separation. And how do you feel about the fact that we are encouraged not to stay in presence of our loneliness, rather to go back to the phone so we don't feel? I find this very dangerous. I have children and I really am concerned about how easy it is these days to escape feeling.
Yes. So that is an important part of our life, that is what we call facing our own feelings, our own self. So that's why I said, when I said about solitude and being alone with oneself, it needs a lot more courage, really, to be able to face one's feelings. But technology, of course, gives us an escape from facing our feelings, or what we call boredom, for instance. Boredom is very common to also all of us. I think maybe the initial stage of loneliness may be this boredom. We may call it boredom, where you really don't find a place for yourself, and you feel so out of place in the time and circumstances and the people that you live with or who are with you. So boredom eventually becomes more deeply, becomes loneliness. So I know when I talk about nonviolent communication, which of course the whole idea of nonviolent communication to be able to help people to connect with one another. And I said, if I could find a workshop on boredom, it might be useful. That could be part of, actually integral part of this program that how to deal with boredom, so.
My experience of boredom is that it leads you to creativity.
Creativity, yes. That's, yeah, boredom is it's just like our feelings. It's something that we encounter. And how do we deal with it? So some people like to escape it. Some people like to face it, and then some people to create new ways of being there, present. So, so I mean, all these things in our lives to become aware of, and also to be present means to face them. That is. So most of our main problem, of course, is the courage to be, you see, courage to face our lives, face our feelings, not to escape from any of them. I think that is the true way to live our lives. And I think loneliness also, if we could be present to that loneliness, the feeling of that loneliness, it really takes us out of it, So not to be overwhelmed by it, but just to be present to that pain or suffering that you experience. And when you can face anything, that you can always, or there is always a way, an opening, which is more life-giving to live our life. So that's why I said, for instance, for me, meditation has been a very useful thing all along, because basically what you do is you just, for an hour, just be with yourself. You don't entertain any thoughts. You don't distract yourself with any worries, or you don't, you avoid everything that may distract you from what is. So that is what meditation is. And therefore that gives, sort of develops, nurtures a culture of true boldness or bravery or courage to be with our lives, to live our lives. And so this is, of course, true of all. So they always say, be yourself. which is a wonderful thing that we hear people saying, be yourself. So you don't have to pretend, or you don't have to find ways of escaping, but just to face life as it is.
When you mention connecting people, I wonder, how do you see the role of empathy when we speak about loneliness?
Yeah, that is, I think, empathy. Empathy is actually being able to be present to ourselves, first of all, and also to be able to be present to another human being. And so in loneliness, I think when people are suffering with loneliness, this is, if there could be someone around who could be empathic, that could that would be a big and a great help for the other person to really reconnect. And
And I see often loneliness as kind of a feeling not being understood or not being seen, not being heard, feeling isolated.
yeah, because loneliness, one thing is loneliness doesn't mean that you are alone. Loneliness, you could be very lonely when even with a huge number of friends or family, people around you. That's not, loneliness could still be there. So, but then finding connection, that is, of course, is a great thing, because, and of course, is there a way for people who are lonely to find connection? That is, I know some people who have gone through loneliness and found come back out of it through the presence of others who have been with them, who continued and to be present, and somehow shown that kindness, love, and empathy that have saved many lives. And so empathy is certainly a great way to deal with loneliness, not personally, but to be able to help something that could help another person who is feeling lonely. And empathy does not mean, of course, just talking to the other one or trying to, but just to be, because very often lonely people have no way of being present to their own loneliness. And that is where empathy comes in, because if there is another human being who could show them a way to be present to that loneliness, by their presence, and that could probably also help them to awaken them and to be able to help them out of it. Because loneliness as suffering is something that we are unable to get out of on our own. That's why it is lonely. Because even though that people are around, it's so very difficult for you. But then when there is a consistent presence of love and kindness and empathy around you, then of course you can wake up to life again.
Father, you have talked about empathy in relations with the other person. What about self-empathy? Can that also help us to
Yes, I mean,
practice?
empathy does not happen unless you are really present to yourself, which is self-empathy. So that is the first step, I think, in all empathy, that you can be present to yourself. And if you, when you can be present to yourself, it's only then that you could really be also be present to another being empathic to assist another human being. So self-empathy is the basic of base of empathy that we talk of. So especially that this loneliness as an evil that really is feared by our society today and experienced widely in our society, which could be really take us further down the line to depression and mental ailment, mental illness. I think it is something that we have to pay attention, and especially I think it is especially when it is in the young people, when our youngsters, when they feel lonely. And of course, we think that they can escape with the technology, with their cell phones, etc. But they may be distracting themselves. But then that also takes them away from the real human connection, which they lose the facility and really connecting to human being by going deep down this lane of technology. And therefore, when they wake up, they find terribly lonely, and then and it's very sad. I think many young people decide to end their lives because they just can't tolerate anymore this pain, suffering. So it's it's something that is really serious, and I can understand why I think Dr. Murthy, Vivek Murthy in US took this up upon himself as a very important thing that need to really pay attention to. The country need to pay attention to, and which is true. So that we can really consider this as it's like an epidemic, and it could become really dangerous for our nations, because I think it what we call wars too also could be explained, I think, in some way, of this disconnection and and maybe not loneliness, but this way of escaping from our conflicts. I mean, escaping our conflicts means finding easy solutions for our conflicts. And conflicts actually are part of our life. And unless you learn in life to deal with them, then you begin trying to escape it.
How can we learn to deal with conflicts, Father? What can we do as?
Yes, I mean, it's the same for me, all of them. I call it always being able to be present to them, not to escape them, to face them. And that is actually, it's all about facing life, facing but is what really in front of us. So most of our life problems arrive when we are not ready to face the reality, real that is there before us. And when we can face it with courage, I think we also find ways of really transforming them. Actually, conflicts, you don't really need to get them, get rid of conflicts, but you can always transform them. They find a new way of expressing themselves, expressing in our lives. They have a new expression in our lives, which is more life-giving, life-serving. So conflicts also, it is so that we don't take easy escapes, steps to avoid them or escape them or run away from them. But it's always a question of facing them.
So are you suggesting that they could be a fertilizer? They can make the soil more fertile?
Yes, yes. For conflicts, when you face them, they could show what is really inside them, which is life.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
No,
every conflict is really the energy of life trying to come out, you know. So when we can truly face it, then we can see what really is behind it.
As I'm listening to you, this metaphor came to me of fire, that when the forest goes on fire, we are terrified, we want to run away from it, but eventually the fire ends, and then that's the new beginning. The life can recreate itself.
Yeah, actually, forests, I think fire is also a natural way of regeneration of forests. It's also fire. So conflict is also that. Conflict is always energy wanting to renew itself, you know, regeneration. Actually, that is the energy that really is alive in any conflict.
I see we have a question.
Yeah, we have a
from Dr.
question.
Budana. Please, welcome.
Welcome.
Okay. So listening to you, I hear about the conflict. And so I'm retracking back. We're starting from loneliness, and Father Chris, you naming that that's a form of separation. As I'm listening to this, the separation is really that inner conflict in a way, and loneliness is just, and it is that conflict which is the separation from my life energy. That's where the separation is, and it's just manifesting as loneliness.
That's
so
right.
Where I'm heading here, I mean, I'm turning it more into, in my mind, into NVC speak. I am present with loneliness. There is no, it's just kind of, Marshall used to say, it's a wake-up call. It's like anger. It's like anything else. Okay, loneliness. And my initial is, I want to escape it. It's uncomfortable. It's, ugh. It's, ugh. So I'm trying to stay present. Just be with this. So it's kind of allowing the space, isn't it? Is that what you're saying? So it's in a way, it's a self-empathy, but it's a slowing down that process of, rather than because as you said, understanding, what I'm asking is that separation, and you said it's a longing for oneness. And if I understand it correctly, the first oneness, not that where there is first, second, and third, but if it's a separation, it's a oneness with self, oneness with inner being, which is part of that divinity.
Yes.
So it's really that. It's first coming into alignment with that, And then it's from that oneness of all, ultimately, because this inner oneness is a part of greater oneness.
Yes, actually, the loneliness that when you really become present to it, it becomes solitude. And
Yes.
it becomes present to oneself, to be alone with oneself. And that really brings you the energy to really connect, because you're connected with yourself. And of course, that gives you the energy to connect with outside and with the others, and brings you out of loneliness.
Yes. So in a way, in the quality, if I think loneliness, when I'm in the loneliness, there is a discomfort, squeeze. Oh, I don't want to feel it. As I'm staying with that, I'm opening to it. Okay, there is a bit more spaciousness. Okay, and it's slowly kind of opening. And so when I'm in solitude, I'm not going to go through the whole process, but I recognize, I remember the solitude in me is the open, it's peace. So in a way, I am more in connection to the needs. I am more, solitude for me is where I'm coming into integration and wholeness. And that wholeness may be called oneness, but yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's the qualitative energy difference, essentially.
Thank you for expressing it more clearly. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for this, Gordana. I see that we also have a hand up from Henrietta.
It's been very interesting listening to Chris and everyone else. It reminds me of how different our the families are that we come from, and the cultures that we come from, and therefore how we what we find helpful to deal with loneliness. So the first point I wanted to make, which I've written in the chat, and probably a few of you have picked up, is that statistically, we live in the most peaceful human society that we have any evidence for. The past is an unbelievably violent and traumatized place in most societies. And looking both from what I've read of history and also looking at my own family from the UK and Ireland, I can really see that in the 20th century and the 21st century, the development of psychotherapy and the development of the welfare state, giving women the vote, universal education, these have transformed how the British relate to their feelings and needs. So I have much more, through nonviolent communication, I've developed a fluency in feelings and needs that would have been unthinkable to my parents and grandparents and their ancestors going back. So yeah, I just wanted it quite possibly from your experience of India, the impact of modern technology has been very different in India which has a very different culture and a very different family traditions than the UK and Ireland do. So I would love to make a plea for people to read The Better Angels of Our Nature, to really have an understanding. For me, it's important to understand the trauma that most societies come from and what it means to be human in growing up in different societies. And I also wanted to say that I have a diagnosis of ADHD and developmental trauma. My response to my mother's depression and inability to cope with the trauma she'd experienced was to shut down. So I can't do solo meditation. If I ever try it, or if I go into a gong bath or any of these experiences where I am on my own with myself, my baby response to shut down comes on, and I spent the last 2 days in fascinating conference with Bessel van der Kolk, one of the leading trauma researchers in the world and neuroscientists. And he showed lots of brain scans of what happens to traumatized people. And all of the prefrontal cortex, all of the thinking parts, the language parts, go offline. There's nothing going on there when the person is triggered into their trauma again. The only parts that are alive are the reptilian parts and the very basic emotional parts about this is absolutely awful, and everything else shuts down. So it's for me personally, I really am profoundly grateful to NVC and the processes that I do online every day, like the dyads or my practice partners that I meet online. Because for me personally, from my neuro, from the way that I grew up and the way that it's affected how my brain develops, I have to be in relationship with somebody who is themselves regulated in order for my prefrontal cortex and my emotional processing centers to be online and to be with the loneliness and with the separation and with all the other difficult emotions. And I'm also aware that I come from a tradition where meditation has not been part of our culture. So that's also an issue. I haven't been introduced to that at times that might have been helpful. So I wondered what are your responses to what I've shared? Thank you.
Certainly, that's why I said I don't normally answer the question, how questions, because every one of us need to really be open to find our own way of meditation is not a solution for everything or for everyone. So, I mean, for instance, presently, I think we need to really present to the culture that is really spreading, you know. So we need to make some changes in our lifestyle or in our way. The way that, for instance, how we bring up our children need to be different. You know, it's not. It could not be the same as before because, of course, now that's precisely what we also find in this time of technology. People, the parents don't know how to bring up their children, you know. So as someone said that, you know, we are so open to expression now that we do not have time to perceive things more deeply. So even a child, of course, now wants to put something on the phone and say where they are, what they are doing, and things like that. You know, that kind of. But then need to also the time to really perceive things, to be present to life. So I think. So our cultural life also need to somehow change and find ways of really creating connections is very, very vital for us. We can't just presume and take it for granted just because we are family that we are connected. You know, then you need to make extra efforts, extra, or even to create a culture that really will support the children and the family to connect and reconnect and to be alive. So, which is true. I mean, so everyone need to find their own. So that in that sense, that being able to face oneself is sort of a fundamental for anyone, you know, even in a trauma, for instance. Of course, you at least to with the help of another, that you really to face the reality that you encounter and to have the courage to be present so that things could really continue. So fortunately, I suppose the therapy and the therapist are part of this work of really helping people to come back, you know, reconnect and things like that. So in that sense, NVC is such a wonderful gift from Marshall, I think. It was a gift, amazing gift, because to realize the treasure that it is a very precious thing, because though it is said so simply, and sometimes we've failed to appreciate in its depth. But actually, NVC is also about this this loneliness, you know, and loneliness and the oneness that is, and the separation and the connection that is always the problem in humanity. And I think Marshall, in his beautiful imagery of NVC as surfing, that's what he meant, to become one with the waves, you know, so one with life and to be present to it. And that is what NVC is. And yeah, I mean, each one have to find our own way. And there is always a way when we really face problems, when we do not escape, or we do not try to find, to avoid, when we truly face with courage our life. I think the life shows us a way, leads us, guides us through. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for pointing out that. Yeah, that is about trauma that is so pervasive in all of us have gone through, you know, that's, and unfortunately they are all part of, they are not present, they are sort of in some way hidden things that we are not present to. So, but to be reminded of is very important, yes. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just wanted to say that I actually have a lot of hope for the world continuing in general, on aggregate, to become a more caring and safer place, because so many people now are receiving care for their trauma, that there are many societies are doing individual work to enable people not to pass their trauma on to the next generation. And that's what didn't happen for my parents and grandparents and uncles and aunts, and going back many generations. And also those who are trained these days in the hospitals and health services now are more likely to have an understanding of the essential connection between mother and child, which was routinely broken by doctors in positions of power, because they had no concept that mothers provided anything other than food and cleaning the child and clothes. Whereas now we have an understanding of how absolutely essential the connection between mother and child is, that there's much more care, for example, when my father had TB, he was put in an isolation hospital on his own for months, 6 months, something like that. And nobody was allowed to visit him, and it was a ward full of adults. And nobody would do that to a child today. Now the understanding is that it is more important for the child to continue their relationship with their parents than it is for them to treat the infectious disease. And we have other ways of treating the infectious disease. So that's a sort of routine trauma that children experience to get sent away to boarding school at the age of 6 or 7 because their parents were living in a foreign country. It doesn't happen today. So I'm very hopeful from this point of view. Thank you.
Thank you, Henrietta, for sharing this. I see that we have also hands up from Nienke first.
Yeah, Nienke.
Okay.
Yeah, what came up for me in relation to the oneness, I'm not as hopeful as Henrietta. I see a lot of suffering in the world, and if you would really check in with the oneness, it can also bring a lot of despair. Like if you really get into that feeling of we are all connected, and then you see all the suffering, like how do you give room to that? So maybe you can give some suggestions for that.
Yeah, you mean the oneness could bring more suffering into our life, is it? Yes.
Yeah, it's almost,
So,
I have fear of really checking in with it because it's so immense that it can be overwhelming in a way, because by myself, I cannot change it. You can, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. That's why I'm asking.
yeah. Well, I don't know. Oneness, I mean, when we speak also, the oneness that I'm thinking of, maybe not the same thing as the oneness that you are thinking of. And so, and also to, so I don't sort of simplify it as our problem as the problem of oneness, but what we can always say is connection. That is certainly is something that we are missing when we are talking about loneliness. I think that is the problem, is that someone cannot be awakened to connection with another human being and desperately wanting it and not being able to find it. And that is what we experience as loneliness. And at that point, I suppose the loneliness is also is the fear that you're talking about, this oneness, this connection. You know, that is what drives us deep into the whole of loneliness, the suffering of loneliness. And so the fear is, of course, is an illusion that takes over us. So when we become victims of these illusions, of course, then we also afraid. I mean, we could really more deeper into our loneliness. So connection, of course, obviously, we may not talk about oneness, but certainly connection is something that we are longing for in loneliness. But at the same time, as you say, there's also the thing that we are afraid of. Because I remember this Surgeon General, Dr. Vivek Murthy, who explored this loneliness in America, and he talks about himself when he came from India to the US, and he wanted the connection, acceptance, and all that in his early life in the schools, but he was also afraid that he was not able to, how he would be received. So the fear is there, which is something that all of us have to face sometime or the other. So, but we cannot deny the need for connection, and to really overcome this fear and to take the step towards connection is something that is sometimes, of course, when you are lonely, you are incapable of doing that, and you are helpless in that. But then that's why we said the help of another human being is so very essential there. The empathic and loving kindness and presence of another human being, that is what really enables someone to dispel the illusion of the fear and to really take the step and come and connect. Yeah, I mean, what you say is so very true, because that sort of is also part of the loneliness struggle, that the fear that keeps you away from connection, that overwhelms you, that you are unable to overcome or go beyond. So it's thank you for bringing awareness to an aspect of that loneliness that is fear.
Yeah, and for me, it's like in meditation, you can experience the oneness, and I have experienced it. And at the same time, if you fully accept that we are all one, then we are all suffering, right? Because if one person on earth is suffering, we are all suffering. And I guess that whole idea in the current state of the world is what is overwhelming. Because,
yes,
yeah, you feel powerless. Really, I feel powerless in that. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the sense of that is also that you need to face it, the reality that is what it is, the powerlessness towards the suffering that is pervasive in this world. And especially the technology sort of makes it so very evident, and sort of sometimes maybe exaggerates it, but certainly is bringing it to your awareness, and it could go both ways. It could really frighten you more, and overwhelm you more, or you can also, when you have the courage to face it, then probably if all the people could face it, then there will be a way also opening up to really find a way to it, because I mean it's I don't know how we came to this point of the conflict that now that we all of us have keen on destroying one another, and that is also because we have not faced our conflicts and our differences squarely. So, so the hope, I think, for me is always the so widely present suffering is also the hope that I think, because it's not something, it's my suffering, it's the sufferings of all human beings here, So when people can take that, and then they really can have the courage to face it, then of course they can also find the way, because life then becomes alive, Then it becomes the fear when you face it, disappears, then you can find a way out of it. So that's a, so in one way it is, the hopelessness is also the hope that I am thinking of. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I think sharing it now and giving it space is already
Thank you.
expanding, like the moving to the hopefulness stage. And I guess NVC is also, and having this community, of course, also brings me hope. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So I see that we also have a hand up from Sinta.
Yes, thank you. Really continuing this thoughts from Henrietta and Ninka, I'm sitting with this question: is there progress? I used to believe there is, and that has shifted recently. Like when you say it is the suffering that's everywhere in the world, in many places, and it so much depends on where you're sitting and what you are in connection with, how you see all that. Trying to express this clearly. So on the one hand, there's progress in that we learn more to express our feelings and be in connection with our needs in some places in the world, in some circles, and in other places we have technology that like helps us connect and have this Zoom call, and also for many people is a way to flee real connection. And at the same time, there is unaddressed conflicts that are now turned into very horrific wars that cause whole heaps of new trauma that people have to deal with. And so I'm sitting with this, increasingly with this consideration that it's things that balance each other out, and they will look differently in different moments of time. Yeah, so in some places we see progress and we can have hope and we can contribute to more connection and making life better in some parts, and in other parts things will go down and they keep each other in balance. And I was really wondering with this sitting with this thought of progress. Are we as humanity becoming progressively less stupid, or are we just each time being born with our task to face whatever it is it means to be human, and with all the beauty and the ugliness that comes with it?
Yeah, that's a that's a good question. That's something that could really occupy our mind, the sense of. But that's a question that I normally don't ask. That is there a progress? Because when you ask a question of progress, you are already you're on the reverse. That's so. Because I really, it's not about progress. It's about the presence and the present, and that is what it is. And because it is in the present, and that you find the progress, and it's not about because. I know, because most of our concern most of the time is about the progress and the future, But I think, I think whatever you are looking for could always and only be available in the present, and that our own capacity to be present to that moment, because it is, I believe, the progress of what you're talking about, the future, is always has no meaning other than being in the present. So, and the more for me, I think the progress is one of the distractions, could really keep us longer in our suffering. And that's why I always believe that being able to be present to this moment, this present moment, and this present suffering. And that is where I think we find our real connection, and that we find awakening, or being able to come out of that loneliness.
Yeah, and I think what I really was striving for, meaning to search for, to say, is to, in this present, to make space for both the hope and the despair.
Absolutely.
As equally kind of, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, because when you're talking about the progress of the future, it is always also has meaning only in this present moment. And the more that you are present to this moment, then of course, then you have the hope and and the energy and life that could come out to guide us to really to live. Yeah. Yeah, that's a very very valid point, and very useful indication that that our own, we are most of the time, I think we are always worried about the future and the progress. But when they are really anchored in this present moment, then of course it has much more meaning and much more, it becomes hope, and it becomes really alive for us. So that, thank you for pointing that out.
Thank you, Sinta. I see that also Rina has a hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Mati. Yeah, there's so many lenses through which we are exploring this, this human condition of suffering and presence. So I was thinking of earlier when, before nonviolent communication, I was like nicely, happily ignorant. So in blaming, judging and all that. So somewhere it felt like ignorance is bliss. I can just dump everything on somebody else. And then, with awareness, ignorance is now, there's awakening and some realization, self-connection, and owning all parts of me with love and care. And there I find some, as you said, hope, some partnership, with us. And I'm truly grateful, Chris, for this, for all the insights, and just continuing in each present moment with new possibilities, new choices. And they're not really new. Those choices are natural to us. So we are actually unlearning our habitual patterns and being more available to all of life through the lens of needs. So, yeah, I also wanted to share that, Ramanusha is here. So Ramanusha may want to say something, but we're meeting in Sri Lanka soon in September for a 9-day IIT. So, Chris, would you like to, and Ramanusha, both of you are here. I don't know if you'd like to mention that.
Yes, please. Welcome, Ramanusha. Please introduce yourself and let's tell us more about Sri Lanka. We here are very, very excited to know more.
Yeah. So I'm Ramanusha, certified trainer from Sri Lanka. And Father Chris used to be my neighbor. Now we are living in two different places. We both live in Sri Lanka. But sometimes I come to these type of events to really get his wisdom, because Chris is a person, when I go with a problem, he listens, gives his present, but never gives solution, because as he said today, he let me suffer and find my own path. But he's my great teacher, as he mentioned, when we think about progress and improvement, then we are in the same cycle. So there are moments we connect with our oneness. There are moments we connect with true self. And again, we go with the other cycle also. So there is nothing called progress. So I resonate with Father Chris. So after almost 7 years, we are holding this IIT next year in Sri Lanka. So I can see in the chat whether the world is peaceful or not now, but actually only thing I can say, Sri Lanka is peaceful than ever in the history. A lot of positive things are happening. Path for reconciliation is opening after so many years of bloodbath. So Sri Lanka is in landscape, it's just a heaven, very beautiful, but we went through a very painful ethnic conflict. However, through NVC, almost more than 20 years, I and Father Chris, even mid of the war, we worked for healing, connection in the times of, all the challenging days. And NVC groups were so supportive to myself, as well as I was supporting for the healing and connection continuously. But now there's a very positive political climate is happening, and that there'll be more and more spaces for connections and reconciliation. So we can actually we can learn from each other, because we have some positive stories how to connect after the painful violent conflicts. So actually, very interesting thing I used to say to people, I learned nonviolence or nonviolent communication not through compassion but through violence, because I would say I was born into a violent kingdom. Through that violence, I understood what is compassion, what is nonviolence. As Thich Nhat Hanh say, no mud, no lotus. Through the suffering of this violence, so many years, I am, I'm blossoming like a, like a lotus. And that is the difficult path. Even that difficult path and the painful ending now giving me some hope. So I'm with so much of joy and also with so much of hope. I really, really invite you all, if the time, space, and resources permit, can join the Sri Lankan IIT in 2025.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much,
Thank you,
Ramanuja.
Ramanuja. Thank you for bringing that up. Because, what you said about you learned your NVC through the violence, that's interesting. And but this IITs could be a tremendous opportunity, really, for us to come together and to really more deeply into this precious gift of nonviolent communication. That is, it's really tremendous. If we could take it to the whole world, has always been my my hope, and I think we had the first IIT, I think, in Asia was in Sri Lanka, by the way, in 2002. So thank you for bringing awareness of this opportunity in Sri Lanka. It's a beautiful place. Thank you.
Ramanuja,
Thank you.
please put the link in our chat so we can learn more about it. And hopefully some of us will see Sri Lanka in September.
Yes,
I have shared the link. Yeah,
Yeah.
I have shared the link. I'll share it again. It's on CNBC website as well. Thank you, Ramanusha, for this huge kind of, kind of sharing of the environment and your journey in Sri Lanka, which is such a special place.
Thank you, Rina.
And thank you for bringing hope, because I think that's what we really need. We need hope. And you came here with this energy of hope, of this renewal, of the new life coming after the fire. So thank you so much.
Thank you for this beautiful invitation. I feel longing to be there with you, to travel to Sri Lanka. I've never been there, and I've been to India many times, but not to Sri Lanka. And yeah, I would also like to see how the communities are now living with each other, how reconciliation is happening, how the healing is happening. And yeah, besides seeing the beauty of the nature, and I'm really interesting how the country now is looking, and yeah, how people are living with each other. And since we are mentioning IITs and NVC workshops, I can relate to getting a lot of nourishment from being in NVC communities, like to go to the events, to the workshops. And I would like to share a very dear memory of mine, of my first interaction with you, Father Chris, which was in one online activity. And in the breakout room, I shared some desperation around how there is not enough NVC in the world, and how I'm longing for that more people would start learning and practicing NVC. And you just listened, and then in the main room you shared something like that NVC is actually already there. And that was really a profound idea that really affected me. And I would like to ask, if you can maybe mention more about it, what you meant with this.
Yeah, I mean, NVC is the elephant in the living room. It's it's always there, but it's that we fail to recognize it. Everything that we, as Marshall, after all the teachings, he always came up with saying there is no such thing as jackal and giraffe. They're only giraffes, and the jackals are just giraffes with a language problem. So in that sense, to recognize the innate presence of this love, this presence, this connection, that so I always thought that NVC is about connection, but it is not about connection for me. NVC is about living, discovering the connection and living in it, and not to run away from it, not to escape it, to be present to it and to live that life in connection. So that's what I meant when I said NVC is always there. It's just a question of recognizing it and to live it. Thank you, Marty. Thank you for bringing it up.
And what do you have any good strategies or tips how to do it, or how to recognize it, or?
Yeah, I'm rather poor on strategies, but as I said, the only strategy is the natural one, also being just opening our eyes and just to be able to hear what is there and to listen and to be present. So strategies actually, it's not strategies when they are not part of the process, organic and process of life, then they become very dangerous, like they become wars, you see. So actually strategies need to be part of the whole. So I'm not very big on strategies, but my only strategy is just to be present, to open my eyes, to see what is there, and to hear what is there, what I hear, and to be present to it, and to face it. Yes, that is my strategy. And I think once you really see that every so I also measure the experience of your progress, for our progress or our deepening of our NVC is in the way that we include in our hearts every human being. The more that you include, and then of course then you become more whole and more alive in this nonviolent communication. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for.
Yeah, and when you say to be present, I was thinking that, okay, we go to the NVC workshop or to IIT, and 9 days we are immersed in this compassion and empathy and presence, and we live in a very supportive community, and then we go back to the world, to the real life, and then maybe we come with this intention of, okay, let's do a positive social change, let's connect with each other, and then suddenly we are facing challenges. And now that you mentioned to be present, I was thinking like maybe the problem is that we are kind of thinking that we are bringing the solution, and I guess the
Yeah,
solution has to be co-created. Or
yeah, that's nicely put. Yes, it's not about solutions. It's, I think, in that part of Marshall's image, it is about falling from the the board and really getting back on it again and again. You know, that is that itself is that is also a part of surfing. It is not just being smooth and beautiful on the surfboard through the waves, but also to fall and to get up. So to face every part of our life, you know, every aspect of it. And so I always tell people, you know, don't waste your money and time with these workshops, because because there is a workshop every moment in your life. Just face it, you know, and you'll be much more ready. But it's good to have also these opportunities to get together and to share and to be present to each other and to build a community that could bring this this wonderful gift to the whole world. Thank you.
And I see, I would like to share what Rina just wrote, that we go back transformed, more whole, more skilled, and with NVC community to lean into, which inspires me to ask you another question about what does this leaning into NVC community or other communities mean for you, or what is the role of support, or how do you see this?
Yeah. You mean what is the meaning of the NVC community, is it?
Yeah, what is the meaning, and what would it mean in your world to lean into the community?
Yeah, it's sort of because my experience of IITs has been for one thing, that I attend every IIT. For me, it's always a total surrender of myself, you know. So that is what really brings me back to be present there. And it is always amazing to see the energy that really is transformed with all the people that arrive there. and come, and they suddenly go into a bubble, I think, and that's probably why when they go back, they find it so difficult, the reality. But yeah, it's it's a real opportunity to really meet one another who are practitioners and who have taken up this energy and commitment to really bring this to the world and to all the people. Yeah. So it is something, it has lot of meaning in that coming together. It's very, very meaningful for me. It's not actually coming together to learn anything new, but just coming together to be with one another and to really open to one another and to be in this energy of the spirit of NBC is a wonderful opportunity. Yes.
And what happens afterwards when we go back to the world?
Yes.
We might feel lonely since we experience this beautiful wholeness.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. But then that's where you need to remind yourself. The surfing is not just zooming over the waves, but surfing is also falling down into the waves and struggling to get up and doing it again and again. So this is all part of the same thing. The whole thing is called surfing.
I also want to mention that we, from the start, this has been a conversation. So we have been talking, but also there is a whole thread on chat, and people have been mentioning some books. You, Father, you have mentioned the publication by Vivek Murthy, this US surgeon, and I have posted the PDF on chat because it's available. So I will, for the people who will be listening the recording, I will also add this information. And there also has been a recommendation of the book by Henrietta. Henrietta recommended this book. Is by Steven Pinker, The Better Angels of Our Nature. And I encourage you to think if you have any other questions, because we are slowly coming to an end. So think about it, and I think it's really beautiful. People just felt like asking a question, and you put your hand up, so feel free to do it.
I have a question. Can you come up with a suggestion of snapping out? Like, okay, I fell into the ocean, into the cold water. I am drowning. How can I snap out? How can I get hold of my board and start climbing up again?
Yeah, as long as you have this in your mind that you are surfing, you're not falling, but you are surfing. So that is what really gives you the energy to really grab the board again and to really get back onto it, because this is all surfing. So this is all living, this is all living NVC.
Yes, and at the same time, following this metaphor, I imagine that before I am in the midst of ocean, I need the time of training, and would be nice if I could go into the waters with the instructor. And I think it's about the attachment style, that not all of us were fortunate to grow up with the safe parent who would guide us. And how can we provide this for ourselves and for others, this guidance?
Yeah. So I think it's always, it's a privilege and it's a really wonderful thing to be able to have a guide. But at the same time, it is all, the whole purpose of a guide is to connect you to the inner guide there. That is guide inside. So once you're connected there, then of course, you are also free from your guide and really be able to live that process. Because NVC is about you and your life, and it's about really living it with that whole energy that is there within you, and to bring it out and to, to be present to all the people there. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And I am thinking that since it's all about connection, and that all that we long in life is about connection, I have suggestion that we could use this 10 minutes to really connect. And I would love to know more about who you are, where you're from, what brought you here. And I understand that right now the common connection for us all here is the fact that we probably know some NVC and we know Father Chris. So maybe we can put it in the chat, or maybe we can say it very quickly. How did we meet Father Chris, and where are we from and why we are here? What do you say?
Yes, that's a great thing. We can open it up for that.
So I can start to make it flow. So I met Father Chris through Ella Jurista. And thanks to this event, I also met Maja. And I'm very grateful for that. And I'm from Poland. I am from Kraków. Thank you. Thank you all for being here. And maybe I pass it on to someone to make it move. So I will pass it to Jordana.
Okay, I am from Croatia, former Yugoslavia, live in Spain. Father Christmas, until now I have not met you except for through reputation, through speaking, and I really met you before meeting you through Katarzyna, who was just beautifully inspired and loving and just surfing on your energy and her energy when I met her. So that was the reason for me coming here, just to have this experience of subject of loneliness and solitude. And it's been an experiential thing for me in the last 2 years, the difference between these two while I have been going through grief. But it was really Katarzyna who has inspired me to come here. So Snežana is here.
I'm from Serbia. I live in Serbia. I visit Gordon in Spain. My language not good.
English, yeah.
My English not good, sorry.
We love you as you are.
I love NVC and nonviolent communication. I changed my life. I
freed myself through NVC.
I free, yes. Imam strast da slušam NVC.
Oh, yes. Listening about NVC, connecting through NVC is my passion, essentially. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Who do you pass your voice to?
Koga se slike hoćeš da
Glasses.
Sinta.
Sinta.
Yes, thank you. I met Father Chris in Ukraine and online many times, and there was a big project we did training people in NVC and conflict resolution, and I'm in the Netherlands myself. And I can pass on to Monique if you want to share.
Hi, I'm Monique from France, and this Zoom has been recommended to me by Shona Cameron, who is an NVC certified trainer. I was interested in coming because I go to India very often, so I know the Indian philosophy, and the theme of loneliness is an interesting one in Indian philosophy, and the meditation and the samadhi, where people will stay alone for 3 years, 3 months, 3 days. And I found it very interesting to listen to somebody who was from that culture. Oh, I pass it on.
Send love to Shona and pick the next person because we are running out of time.
I can't see the faces. Can you
Okay,
pass
so maybe I will do that. Is it okay? I will ask Ola.
Hello, thank you. It's nice to see you all. I met first time Chris on Eva Rambala meeting online. It was like 3 years ago. And I enjoy being here in the same room with you, Chris, and with Kasia, Magdalena, and Evelina. Yeah, thank you so for invitation and for this meeting. So, and I'm passing to Rene. Rena?
Thank you, Ola. I have shared in chat, and to save time, I'd like to pass it to Rishali Patkar, who is here. And Chris, thank you so much for walking alongside me for 22 years.
Thank you.
Rishali, would you like to share?
Yeah, hi. Good day, everyone. I got to know about this NVC concept from Reena, who had been my professor in my mediation master's class, and I got connected with this concept very quickly, and I found it very interesting, and I'm looking forward to get into this concept in more detail and understand various aspects related to this. So this today's session, as I understand, is one part of the whole journey. Honestly speaking, yes, while I understood the difference between solitude and loneliness, it's completely two different concepts and everything. But with the culture that someone did speak about, the Indian culture, but the kind of culture that we have, I think loneliness is something which is very, I don't think it really gets experienced in by many here. At least I haven't experienced it. So I am not able to relate to that concept, honestly speaking, about of the loneliness. Yes, as I do understand the concept, but when it comes to relating to it, I am not able to relate to it. But yes, at the same time.
Okay, because our time is up, I'm very sorry to stop you at this point.
Yeah, sure, no problem. Thank you.
We have 2 minutes left, and I realized that it was a crazy idea to invite everyone to speak. Sorry about that. And because we have just 2 minutes, please put in the chat the answer to the question which I asked about. And I give voice back to Matti and Magdalena and Father Chris.
I would like to celebrate that we could hear more voices now, and at the same time I mourn that we cannot hear more and that we could have more time. And yeah, my dream would be that we could be just in one place now to continue this discussion. And my hope is that we will get opportunity in the future to connect, maybe in Sri Lanka at IIT, or maybe on some other occasions. And yeah, I would like to finish with my gratitude for your presence, Chris, and for the presence of everyone, for sharing your wisdom, your ideas, your longings. And I would give word to you to say something for everyone to.
Magda, you want to say something?
I will. I think just I would like to, because Matti actually invited you, Father.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm really, I was very delighted to really see so many people here, and most of us somehow connected with NVC, and especially sharing thoughts on this topic of loneliness that is slowly creeping into our world. And so I'm glad, and thank you very much. Thanks for all those who took the initiative to bring us together, to share our thoughts. And I just would like only one thing to say is thank you. Thank you very much for your presence. Yes.
Thank you. And thanks also to everyone who participated in this conversation. And I realize now it's a bit of a paradox that we have come together to talk about loneliness and solitude. But that only shows, I think, one of the things we talked about is this longing for connection. And we want to experience this solitude and also be present to loneliness, also because we want to connect with others. And I believe this is only a start of a conversation, but now we need some time to process the things, and maybe new ideas will come up. So we need that time alone to process, but the recording will be available. So I take so I would like to close our meeting now.
So thank you very much.
You can unmute everyone and say whatever. You can say thank you in your own language. And till next time.
Dhanyavad.
Dankjewel. Thank you. Thanks so much, Father Chris.
Thank you.
Дякую. До побачення.
Thank you.